All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our McLean County Chamber of Commerce member education. My name is Mitch. I'm the programs manager at the McLean County Chamber of Commerce. Today we'll be focusing on cybersecurity in recognition of October here as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Our presenter today is Scott Stevens, the Chief Information Security Officer with Integrity Technology Solutions. I'll turn it over to Scott in a minute here, but first, before we do dive into our topic for the day, we want to recognize our video resource library sponsor for October, the Shirk Family Foundation. By sponsoring our educational programs, the Chamber is able to provide our member eds and town halls to our membership free of charge. All member ed presentations can be found on the video resource library on our website at www.mcleancochamber.org. The video resource library is found in the member resources tab on the website. Make sure to check it out. Those who are joining us live today are doing so either on Zoom or watching live streaming on our Chamber Chat Facebook group. For those catching this on the video resource library, be sure to be checking in on our events calendar or check your Monday morning coffee emails to hear about upcoming member eds so you can register to attend live. So again, I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors for the video resource library. And now I'd just like to introduce y'all and turn it over to Scott Stevens for our presentation today. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll turn them over to Scott and we'll get those answered as we have time for today. But thank you, Scott, for joining us. We appreciate having you.
All right, Mitch. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to the McLean County Chamber. As October is Cybersecurity Month, there are a lot of activities going on around security. I'd like to go through today, talk about some of those activities. We'll talk about cybersecurity awareness. Communicating in the awareness component is one of the best values in technology. The more that we can raise the water level so that people understand the threats, can better recognize the threats, the more secure that we can be, both individually and for our businesses. So with that, let me go ahead and start my presentation. Get my sharing all ready to go. There we are. All right, and as Mitch, as you said, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So what I'd like to do today is we're going to talk about what the threats are that are out there and their potential impact on you and your business. We'll talk about how criminals are going to try to trick you, talk about your role in cybersecurity, and talk about best practices and things that we can put in place. And we'll also talk a little bit about what protections could be there. This is definitely not to promote any specific products. We're going to be talking more about general controls, security things that can be done, and how to protect yourself and your business. I am focusing this presentation on businesses, but you'll find with the recommendations, a lot of these topics can be taken home, and there are things that you can do individually to secure yourself. So I'm going to start out. I know this slide is something of an eye chart. I am not going to read through it, but really the purpose is to illustrate just how much is going out there in the world, how much is going on in the world with regards to cybersecurity. If I even just take the top couple items, I did highlight some vulnerabilities. Now, software manufacturers announce different vulnerabilities from time to time. These vulnerabilities can be exploited by hackers, by malicious actors. So we always have to keep track of what vulnerabilities are out there. So for example, Hive Nightmare is one that gained a lot of notoriety. On July 22nd, Microsoft came out and said, we've got a problem. We really don't have a fix for it, but here are some things you might want to do to protect yourself. So these types of advisories do come out fairly frequently. Just before that, Microsoft has had quite the run of luck. They've also had Print Nightmare, which is a print spool vulnerability. So these vulnerabilities are out there, And in both cases, with the Print Nightmare and Hive Nightmare, when they were announced, it was also announced that malicious actors already had toolkits designed, and they were using these to exploit businesses. So these are the worst kind. So other threats that are out there, there was a ransomware attack that took place on Kaseya, which is a supply chain type product. We heard a lot about the ransomware attack on the pipeline. Those types of attacks are still happening right here in our backyard. I will share with the group, I did get involved in a ransomware incident and have been working on an incident response. And it happened about 4 weeks ago. And it is actually the same perpetrators as the ones that were on the pipeline issue. This business is in Central Illinois. It's a fairly large business, and ransomware is here. I mean, it is here in our backyard. So the threats that are there, I mean, the threats are more frequent than people realize. The number of breaches are more frequent. I'll give you another example. I was notified this morning that a business that I do work with just realized that they were victim of fraud. They've been getting invoices for about the last 8 or 9 months and had been passing those through to accounts payable, and accounts payable was dutifully paying these invoices. Well, it's fraud. These were fake invoices that were coming in through an outside source. And that was this morning. So the threats that we see, it's every day, it's in our backyard, it's in McLean County. I mean, these are local businesses. I would like to talk a little bit about the trends. So they're happening frequently. So the trends that we're seeing, the main ones that we are seeing is there is a lot of credential theft. Further on in this presentation, I'll talk more about how the credential theft happens. But credential theft is where the malicious actor is trying to steal your login name and password. This can be to access your email system. It could be to access your QuickBooks Online. It could be to get access to your Facebook account. I've had several instances, even in the past 6 months, where businesses have a Facebook account. They set it up with a password that's not that hard to guess because multiple people need to log into it on behalf of the business. And then somebody gives up the password, a hacker takes control of the Facebook account, and then you have to go to Facebook tech support, which, it's rough to try to get a response, a timely response. So credential theft is one of the big 3 that we're seeing going on out there. A second one of the big 3 is the business email compromise. And again, I've got some slides to talk about this a little later in the presentation. Business email compromise is where a malicious actor pretends to be a C-level executive within the business. So this is going to be someone pretending to be the CEO or the CFO. They send an email message to someone in accounting asking them to pay a bill, to provide information to someone else. And if they do a good job, the recipient gets tricked. So they're tricked into giving up information or paying a bill. Another instance of business email compromise. We saw this one about 8 to 10 weeks ago. A business that we do work with had a relationship with another professional services company. And the professional services company hired our client as a subcontractor. Our client did the project they were supposed to do. They sent an invoice to this other entity, and someone actually hacked the other entity's email, tricked them into paying an invoice back to our client, and the other entity actually sent the money to a hacker. It was a little over $12,000 in that case. Had another instance. It was a small business. This has been about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, where the business was logging in. They received an email, and this is kind of a combination, business email compromise and credential theft. A person inside the business received an email that looked like it was from an executive. They clicked on a link which prompted them to log into a system. They gave up their password. Hackers actually were able to log in, and they diverted about $34,000. This is a small business. It crushed them. I mean, they did survive, but it crushed them. So, and then finally, the last topic I want to talk about or just introduce here with this slide is ransomware. This is another one of the big three that we're seeing a lot of. And ransomware, if you're unfamiliar or haven't seen it yourself, is where a hacker will get a piece of malware installed on your computer or into your network. This malware will go through, typically deletes all backups, and then it starts executing, and it encrypts all of the files in your environment. So all of your accounting systems, your Word documents, Excel documents, financial information, basically everything you use to run your business gets encrypted. And when I say encrypted, it's encrypted with a military-grade encryption string. It's not something you're going to unencrypt. The hackers will then pop up a message and charge you a ransom to get your data back. Ransoms can go anywhere from in the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars up into the millions. We've been involved in ransomware attacks that have ranged anywhere from tens of thousands up into the millions. So with ransomware, it is getting more and more targeted. The hackers are actually picking out businesses that they want to breach. They're also doing a double threat. Typically, when a ransomware event happens, the hackers get the access to the network, and they then download a lot of your information. Once they download your information, then they encrypt what you have. Then they come up and say, you must pay us a ransom or else you don't get your data back. And if you don't respond quick enough, then they put out the threat to you that if you don't respond, we're going to release all of this information out on the web. And they will take bits and pieces of it. And this is exactly what happened in the most recent event here about 4 weeks ago. They took bits and pieces of what they had stolen and they put them out on a dark website and said, hey, look what we've got. And it's all meant to put pressure on the company to pay the ransom. So as this presentation is for business owners and business leaders, I do want to talk about recruiting. There are a couple major ransomware gangs out there right now that are looking for disgruntled employees. If your business is large enough, they will pay someone $100,000 to download a piece of ransomware onto a USB drive and take it out and install it onto the network. And this money is transferred through cryptocurrency, so it's untraceable. If that ransomware operates and if the company gets infected, this hacker group will pay up to 20% of the ransom back to the person who planted it, up to $1 million. So they're providing quite the financial incentive for a disgruntled employee to do this. So, and I know this is not great news. You know, as I'm talking about this, you know, let's have some good news. So I just want you to be aware that this is happening. I also want to make you aware that there are ransomware products that operate as a service. So anyone that wants to can go to a dark website and basically become the next ransomware perpetrator. All you need to have is a list of email addresses and a Bitcoin account. You go in, these hackers have got the services set up where you upload your list of email addresses, you start sending out the ransomware, and they've got the entire backend infrastructure to encrypt, to decrypt, and to also manage the payments. So it's crazy the number of ransomware events that we're seeing, but it's because of the recruiting, and it's because it is so easily available to people who are looking for a quick buck. Okay, so those are some of the threats. So how do these ransomware products and how do these threats come in? So the big one is email. Over 93% of breaches originate with email. Email is the easiest way for a hacker or malicious actor to put a message in front of someone. This message may have an attachment with an executable or a script. This message may have a link. You click on the link, it takes you to a site to download and run something. So email is normally, well, most often, email is the angle that the hackers use to get in onto a network initially. Another way that hackers will come in is what we call a drive-by. A drive-by is a hacked website. So as you are out browsing the web, going from site to site to site, a hacker could get control of one of those sites and actually alter the site. So imagine you're out, you go to a website, you're maybe searching for something and you click on a site and it pops up and says, you need an updated version of Java to see this site. How many people think it's an updated version of Java that's getting installed? It's not, it's a piece of malware, it's a virus. Give you an example, it's probably been 2 years, it's pre-COVID, 2.5, maybe 3 years ago now. There was a community in downstate Illinois. The community's website got hacked. They were using a standard web authoring software product that had vulnerabilities. The hackers got onto their website and they altered it so that if you clicked on a certain section, it would pop up and say, you need a custom viewer to see this page. Click here to install. Anyone that fell for it and clicked here to install would get their system encrypted. So that's what a drive-by is. And that is another threat that we see. A third threat is called a download. Well, downloads, they're typically going after gamers or people that are downloading software. They're downloading levels. They're downloading new enhancements to a game. Hackers will wrap a virus around that download so that when you go out and get that enhancement, you're getting more than you bargained for. How many people remember Pokemon Go? That was all the rave here 2.5, 3 years ago. Pokemon Go was the perfect storm because it was released in phases. Worldwide, it was not just released everywhere. So what hackers did is when it was released in one area, they would take that program, wrap a virus around it, and then make it available in other parts of the world. You know, how do we protect against this? Make sure you know where you're downloading from. Now, both the Apple Store and the Android Store have gotten a whole lot better about vetting the software that they have. There's a lot less threats that are in the stores today than there were 2-3 years ago. But also, you want to make sure you're not downloading and installing software from other sites. You know, everyone has an app. Everyone wants you to download their app. Make sure you're getting the app from your phone's store, from the Apple Store or from the Play Store with Android. And finally, I do want to talk about social media. Social media is another major avenue that hackers use to try to exploit us. Social media, the major threats there are either through the messenger. So if you're familiar with Facebook, you know how on the side of your screen, if you're using it on a computer, you've got Facebook Messenger where your friends pop up and you can chat. Beware of those messages that just pop up unsolicited. If you get a message from one of your friends that says, hey, take a look at this picture of what we did this weekend, and there's a link to download something, I would immediately be suspicious. I would pick up my phone, I would call my friend, I would text my friend. Do not respond to your friend on Messenger. It's very possible that your friend's been hacked. How hackers perpetuate their ploy is once they hack someone, they will use Messenger to try to branch out and hack more and more and more people to try to compromise as many systems and as many accounts as they can. So beware of Messenger. Watch out for those unsolicited emails. Another thing to watch out for are the too good to be true ads. There was one Facebook ad that was a $75 off coupon at Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay, think about this. Is somebody really going to have a $75 off coupon? Now, the ploy was, if you clicked on that coupon, it would pop up on your computer that you needed to install a coupon printer. How many people think it's a coupon printer? It's not, it's malware. So you just have to look out for those too good to be true opportunities, and then also pay attention to Messenger. You'll hear me say multiple times through this presentation that if you get an unsolicited request, you should be suspicious. Those unsolicited requests are usually the bad ones. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit further to specific threats that are out there. One of the topics we talked about in my early slide was business email compromise, also known as CEO fraud. CEO fraud is an email that comes from a trusted source. It comes from someone inside your business, typically a C-level or executive level person. And an example would be, you could get an email from either of these two email addresses. You spot the difference? You notice one of them has an M, the other one has an RN strategically placed. If I were a hacker, I could go to a site and I can get a website for 30 days at no charge. I could go register a lookalike name, something that looks like your company's name. I could register an email address with your name on it, and I could pretend to be you and start sending messages to your employees or to your suppliers or to your business associates. I do a lot of work in the financial industry with banks, credit unions, and the like. We see a lot of CEO fraud going on there, where people are trying to spoof a username or a domain and try to sneak one by. They're going to either ask you to click on something, open something, or do something. Now, the do something, many people here may be aware, and I can talk about it. It was actually published in the media, but there were 3 different school districts this past February, March timeframe that were in downstate Illinois, large school districts, where a person inside the accounting department received an email that looked like it came from the superintendent. The email asked the accounting department to please send a copy of the W-2 census to this Gmail address. Well, dutifully, these school districts' accounting departments sent away the W-2 census. What does that include? People's names, home address, date of birth, social security number, and everything you need in order to steal somebody's identity. So basically, all faculty and staff at these schools who received a W-2, their personal information was sent to a hacker. Beware and look at the emails. More times than not, it's obvious if you actually look at the from, but it might be something as subtle as the M versus the RN. I also have a note on this slide. Would you notice this at 2:30 on Friday afternoon? This came up, actually, my wife was the one that noticed it, because at one point she contacted me on a Friday afternoon. It was about noon. You know, how's your day going? Are you going to make it home at a decent hour? I responded, sure. I'm caught up on my tickets. Things are going well. And then something would happen at 2:30 and I wouldn't leave the office until 7. The next week, the same thing happened again. And she said, why does this always happen on Friday? Aha. Hackers know what they're doing, don't they? I'll also report to you, we see a significant increase in hacking activity on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, on the Thursday or Friday before a 3-day weekend. And why is that? Well, we've got a lot going on. In some cases, we're trying to get a week's worth of work done in that last day before the holiday. In other cases, we may have employees that already have one foot out the door. They're thinking about being on the boat, or they're planning on their family gathering. So pay particular attention and really have your radar up on Friday afternoons and on days leading up to holidays. I've got a couple minutes here. I'll share with you. There is a client that we work with at Integrity that last Thanksgiving, on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, someone had contacted the bank. So the hacker had gathered enough information and were brazen and bold enough to actually call the bank, request that the bank make changes to the funds transfer limits and who can do funds transfers, and then attempted to push one through. Now, thankfully, the bank's controls caught it, but the hacker was so good that they actually were able to make the change. Where the bank caught it is during the funds transfer. They actually requested a funds transfer, and the bank did stop it. So the degree to which hackers will go is shocking. I'll also share with you this most recent ransomware event. Our team members were at the client site when the client's phone rang. The caller ID looked like it was someone internal, and it was actually the hacker calling the C-level people to threaten them and say, you'd better pay this ransom and you'd better pay it now. So the degree to which hackers will go knows no bounds. They will do anything they can to try to pressure you into paying the ransom. So we'll move a little faster here. A couple other threats that are out there: credential phishing. This is one where you receive an email message, and the email message, which would be represented on the left of the screen, looks like it came from Microsoft. It looks like a normal Office 365 message. And it says, there's something that you need to do to your account. Click here now to verify your account. When you click, you see what's on the right side. This looks like a normal Microsoft login, doesn't it? The problem is a hacker took the image of the Microsoft login and put it on their own server. So when you click on this and you see this login, people are compelled to go ahead and enter their username and password. So what's going to happen? Well, within about 5 minutes of you giving up your username and password, the hacker is going to try to log in as you and gain access to your email system. Once logged in, they're going to try to figure out where you fit in the food chain. Are you someone that can pay a bill? Are you in an accounting department? Or are you in an influential place where they can either exploit your customers? So for example, let's say you're in a marketing capacity and have a really big address book. Hackers love that because now they're going to use your account to start hacking your customers. So credential phishing is one of the big ones. Now, we have seen a decrease with our clients in credential phishing, and we'll talk about multi-factor authentication a little later, but that's the trick. That is what we need to do to protect yourself. Okay, so we are going to spend some time now talking about your role in cybersecurity. What are things that we can do to protect ourselves? The first one I've already started to lead on to, that is multi-factor authentication. There are three main factors that you can use to prove that you are you. It's either something you know, like a password. It could be something you have, like a token. And I'm lifting up my phone here because I've got I've got software on my phone that generates tokens. Or you can use something that you are to prove that you are you. Something you are could be a fingerprint, a palm print, a retina scan, or even facial recognition is improving. It's coming. So if I can take two or more of these methods of authentication and put them together, I can be pretty certain that you are you. If you provide a password, and if you have a token on your phone or on a fob, or if you can provide a fingerprint, thumbprint, or proof that's physical proof, if I put two of those together, I can be assured that you are you. So multi-factor authentication is available in many applications. If you're using Microsoft 365 or the Microsoft suite of products for your email, there is no reason to have multi-factor disabled. It's free, it's included with your solution, with your subscription, and it really is step number one. According to Microsoft, If everyone used multi-factor authentication, breaches would diminish by 99.9%. Let me say that again, 99.9%. Wow. This is an obvious one. So if you have the opportunity to set up multi-factor authentication, please do it. Now on the right side of the screen, this is Facebook. You can go into Facebook, go to two-factor authentication and turn it on there as well. So anything that you have that's a web application that supports MFA, we would strongly encourage you to please turn on multi-factor authentication. And what you would need to do is go to your phone's store, whether it's the Apple store or go to the Play Store with Android and get a multi-factor authentication product. Whether you want to get, there's several out there. There's Google Authenticator, there's Microsoft Authenticator. There's another one that I'm fond of that is called Authy, A-U-T-H-Y. These are all free. These products generate the key on your phone to allow you to log in with MFA. So please consider MFA. This is one of the best things that we can do to protect ourselves. And if you're a business owner, enforce this across the business, please. You'll save yourself a lot of pain in the future. Okay, another thing that we can do is use email encryption. Email encryption is available as a component of many Microsoft licenses. So depending on what type of license you have, you may or may not have encryption available to you. If you have an internal mail server, you likely will need to use a third-party product, but email encryption is a valuable tool if you are sending things that are confidential. If you've ever heard that an email message is a lot like a postcard, that is true. Just like a postcard, when you put it in the postal system, postal employees along the way could flip the postcard over and read it. That's similar to email. Now, email encryption is becoming more and more prevalent, but still we would recommend having encryption available if you ever send personally identifiable information, protected health information, or things that you want or should be keeping private. So things that you want to keep away from others, encryption is a good tool to have. Next topic I'd like to talk about for things that we can do to protect ourselves is consider your password hygiene. Do you use good passwords? Your password is typically your key to access. Your password authenticates that you are you. So when we talk about passwords, we recommend people start thinking about using passphrases instead of a password. The hacker tools that are out there today, if you're using a word, even if you try to obscure the word by changing the O's to zeros or putting exclamation points in front of the I's or the L's, it doesn't work. Let's just be blunt, it doesn't work. The hacker tools know that we put zeros in places of O's, so they're already looking for it. They also are very good at psychology. They know the passwords that we use. You know, fall 2021, that is a common password. You know, and people think they're sneaky by saying winter is here or something. So what we'd like to recommend is that people consider using passphrases. Now, some examples, I could say, pink Post-it note. Kind of crazy. PINKPOSTITNOTE. I've got a 14-character password right there. I could put a hyphen between post and it. I could capitalize IT. Now I've got 14, 15, 16 characters in length. If I wanted to get real crazy, I could put a 22 at the end. How hard is it to remember pink Post-it note? It's pretty easy, and it's actually very easy to type. So start thinking about taking 2, 3, 4 short words and put these words together, and let's get your passwords out there to 12 plus characters in length. The length of the password matters more than doing gymnastics on the keyboard to type a bunch of special characters and a bunch of special letters and uppers and lowers. Get the passwords out to 12, 14, 15 characters in length, and you're going to make the password so much better than a short 8-character that's got carats and pounds and things that you can't ever remember. So take a phrase that you say to your kids or say to your, or your parents have said, or a verse or a refrain or a poem, or pick 2 or 3 or 4 random words that may be somewhat associated. Tree, leaf, orange. Okay, tree, I'm not going to put you through the pain of watching me count out how many characters tree, leaf, and orange are, but that would be an effective password. I also want to make the case that we need to use different passwords for each account. We had an instance last fall where a business owner fell for credential phishing. She received an email message to her Microsoft email account. It looked legitimate. She clicked on it. It prompted her to log in. She entered her username and password, and about 30 seconds later, her phone popped up and said, "You're trying to log in now." She had multi-factor enabled. She said deny, and she realized right away that she had fallen for one. She went into her Microsoft account, she changed her password, and was so relieved. This happened on Thursday. On Monday, she logged in to her hosted QuickBooks account where she kept her accounting and found her account had been drained. She used the same email address and password in QuickBooks as what she had used for her email. So when she gave up her username and password, the hackers went out and they tried common sites, QuickBooks being one of them. When they tried to log in at QuickBooks, they succeeded. And in this case, the hacker was real tricky. They didn't just write themselves a check. They actually went into the payroll system and processed a payroll payment so it wouldn't show up in the standard accounts payable. That way, the money would already be gone before the business owner realized it. So another reason why I want you to use unique accounts. How many people heard about when Panera Bread got hacked? So let's say you went to the Panera Bread website because you wanted to order coffee for a business meeting. You ordered your coffee and bagels, and they prompted you to enter a username and password. They got hacked. The usernames and the passwords ended up on the dark web. And if your username and password was there, the hackers are going to try that to log into your email, your banking sites, your investment sites, Amazon. They're going to try to log in anywhere they think that it will work. So please use different passwords for each site. So now that everybody's panicked about how am I going to remember all those passwords, we do recommend that people consider using a password manager. There are several on the market that are good. Personally, I'm a big fan of LastPass. I know people that use Keeper, Dashlane, Bitwarden. These products are all good products. We like password managers because they will run an audit. They'll help you to make sure you're not using the same password at multiple sites. And I'll give you a little insight into my life. I remember 2 passwords. I remember my main password to log into the network, and I remember my vault password to get into my password manager. The other 100, 150, 200 passwords that I would have to remember are all kept encrypted inside the password manager. I also want to make a case, please don't use the browser to remember your passwords. We were hired to do a project. I was going into multiple stores for this project. And when I did, I would sit down at the manager computer. The managers were all letting Chrome remember all their passwords. I would just go into Chrome. I would list out all the systems I needed to get into. I would get all the passwords. I'd get my work done. And then on the way out, I'd hand the manager a list of all their passwords. And I was usually met with a gaping face like, oh my, how did you find those? All it takes is physical access to the machine to get your passwords. So beware of using the browser. All right. There are other security controls that we recommend for people and for businesses. For businesses, we do recommend doing vulnerability scans or risk assessments. It's important to know where you have weaknesses. Many businesses will do these annually. Some businesses do it upon major changes. but it's something to consider. It's something to have a professional come in and actually look at where you may have vulnerabilities. A second point that we want to recommend for everyone, please consider an EDR antivirus. EDR is an endpoint detection and response software product. It's a next generation product. Here I've got the name of one of the products. It's the one that we use. It's called SentinelOne. There are others that are very good. There's Carbon Black. There's Cylance, which is spelled Cylance. There's CrowdStrike. And you notice I didn't say Norton. I didn't say Symantec. The traditional antivirus products are all but dead. So if you are going to invest money in an antivirus product, it had better be an EDR solution. They are really the only hope right now against today's threats. We do recommend people consider internet content filters for their businesses, which blocks machines from going to bad sites, sites that are known to be hacker sites. We also recommend that people patch their machines. Microsoft and all the software vendors come up with patches on a monthly basis. In the industry, the second Tuesday of every month, we affectionately know as Patch Tuesday. That's when they all come out with their patches. On any given week or on any given month, Microsoft will patch anywhere from 80 to 150 vulnerabilities that we don't even know about. So leaving your machine powered on overnight so it can patch is important. That's why I put on here, at the end of the day, reboot and walk away. Your machine does not have to be logged in, but powered on and connected to the internet. And then finally, I would recommend that people consider incident response. Please know what to do. Have a plan. If something happens that is a security event, it's a good idea to have a relationship with a security provider, or know who you're going to call at law enforcement. If your company has cybersecurity insurance, it's important to contact your provider there as well. If you're in a regulated entity or industry, or if you really want to prepare for this, many companies do put together incident response plans where they have step-by-step plans. It's kind of like a disaster recovery plan, but it's a plan in case something happens with cybersecurity, you know what steps to take. The time to think about what to do is not when an incident occurs. You need to think about it before, you need to plan. Then when an incident occurs, it's a matter of executing. You just work your plan. So with that, I do have a summary slide. So some of the things that we've talked about today is first one, do verify the legitimacy of requests before fulfilling them. If you get that email message that has a request, if you get a phone call with a request, know who to call and contact the person outside of the way they contacted you. So if you get an email that says, I need you to pay this bill, call, text, or get up and see the person that's asking you to do it. Don't reply via email. If that person's email has been hacked and you send an email back that says, are you sure you want me to do this? What do you think the hacker's going to say? Absolutely, send me the money. So, and we see that a lot. The second point, be aware of requests and situations that seem suspicious. Have your radar up. Be aware and know who to contact. Third point, keep your passwords secure and safe. We did talk about password managers. The fourth point is to notify proper personnel if you suspect or fall victim to some kind of social engineering. What I mean by this is, if you think you did give up your password, if you think you did trip up, the worst thing you can do is to say, oh, I feel bad, I'll tell somebody tomorrow. We've seen that happen, and the quicker that you say something, the quicker something can be done to protect you. I've got a couple don'ts on the list. First one, don't reply to any email request, not even with an I don't think so. When you reply to an email, you do two main things. First, you communicate with the hacker that they've got a live one. There's somebody at the end of this email address that's paying attention and that might play along. Secondly, you give up your signature. People don't think about this, but a lot of people will put a signature down at the bottom of their emails. Now, if I get your signature, you'd be surprised. I could spoof your email, send it to one of your friends, and they're going to think it came from you, and they're going to respond to me. We do a lot of phishing tests, and that's something that's very effective. If I get a signature, I can pretend to be you, and people will fall for it. The second point, don't click on links or open attachments without, again, verifying their legitimacy. We want to call, we want to text, we want to go out of band. When you get that unsolicited message, make sure it's legitimate. Got plenty of examples. I'm not going to take too much time here. And really, it gets down to don't ignore your instincts. I want to encourage people, please have your radar up. Please be looking at the from. Be suspicious of those email messages that come in that are asking you to do something or click on something. There's a lot of common sense things we can do, but just don't ignore your instincts. And if something does happen, immediately contact the IT team, ask a supervisor, or seek help. And with that, we always say, always think before you click. So with that, I am going to stop my screen share here, and I will open up the floor if there are any questions.
No, just want to be conscious of your time here, Scott. I know you have a prior engagement that you got to run to here. Would you say it's fair? My main takeaways here were make sure you're using a password manager instead of something like Chrome or Safari to keep all your passwords on your computer. Multi-factor authentication, make sure your employees are using it, set it up for yourself. It's easy, it's free on most things. Passphrases, length is better than complicated passcode. And to be using an EDR like Sentinel-1, I know we use here at the Chamber, I think through you guys at Integrity, and just to make sure to do things early instead of waiting till there's an issue. Would encourage everybody to reach out to Integrity if you do have any sort of concerns like that, or for them to tell you what you should be concerned about. They're great for us. And Scott, we really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us here today. Unless anybody does have any other questions to hop on here real quick with.
I was just going to ask, Scott, when you do get a suspicious email, should you just delete it immediately? Do you need to send it to your spam folder? What's the best way to dispose of it?
The best way to dispose of it is to actually delete it. But now if you get multiple, clients that work with us, I typically ask them, if you see multiple emails that are suspicious and they just keep coming in, after you've seen a couple of them and deleted them, contact me. We can go find out what's going on. We may be able to increase the spam filter, or we may be able to take other action to stop the threat.
Okay.
Yeah, good point, Brooke. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, thank you. I know you have to run here, but we really appreciate you taking the time to provide us with this informational session here today. That'll be it for our member ed. Chamber would once again like to thank our October Video Resource Library sponsor, the Shirk Family Foundation. Make sure you guys check out our video resource library at mcleancoChamber.org for more content on becoming digitally savvy, marketing your business on social media, rebranding the business procedures you've had since COVID, and much more. If you'd like to present a member ed or have a topic you want to suggest, shoot me an email at mitch@mcleancoChamber.org. Otherwise, that'll conclude our member ed on cybersecurity awareness. Thank you again, Scott, for sharing with us today, and thank you for everybody who joined us live on Zoom and on Facebook. And have a great week, everybody.